Joining me now is Congressman Hakeem Jeffries of New York. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Good
Thank
evening
you,
to you. What does this say about the closing arguments to the president?
Well, I think, these are desperate acts from a desperate man who's part of a desperate political party that understands they're on the verge of being rebuked by the American people, will likely lose the House of Representatives, will lose several governorships across the country, and have failed to persuade the American people that total control of government by the Republican Party over the last 2 years with the presidency, the House, or the Senate has made their life better. In fact, there are many Americans, particularly throughout suburban communities in the battleground districts, that are playing themselves out in the race for control of the House, who've concluded that our future is uncertain because all of the chaos, crisis, and confusion that the Trump administration and their wholly owned subsidiaries in the House and the Senate on the Republican side of the aisle have visited upon the American people.
You sound extremely confident, but the polls are not necessarily as confident, if you understand what I mean, as you are, because they're closing. The blue wave that everyone said now may be a trickle or a...
Well, we'll see. That'll be up to the American people, but I'm confident that the American people have concluded that divided government in this context is a better option because House Democrats will be able to be a check and balance on an out-of-control executive.
What do you think of Speaker Ryan shutting down the whole birthright citizenship today, saying that the president cannot defy the Constitution, especially with the stroke of a pen?
Well, he's correct. I mean, the notion that Donald Trump would throw this out there, it's unclear whether he actually believes it or whether this is part of a concerted strategy to distract the American people from the issues that we as Democrats have been talking about. We've made clear we're going to fight for the people. We're going to lower health care costs. We're going to increase pay of everyday Americans. We're going to clean up corruption. He clearly wants to talk about Kavanaugh, caravans, birthright citizenship. Who knows, in a day or two, he'll be back attacking NFL players again because he's desperate to try to change the topic. We're not going to let that happen.
You know what I find interesting when I go to different cities around the country, I'll see these ads for Republicans saying that they want to protect pre-existing conditions. And the first thing that comes to my mind is that, isn't that the Affordable Care Act? Isn't that Obamacare? What do you think of that? Because it's like, it's a complete 180. Do you think they really want to do it, or it's just they realize that that's a bad move to not protect the pre-existing condition?
It's unclear whether they really want to do it, but the fact that they are airing millions of dollars of ads all across the country, I think suggests to me that they should be held accountable for their public statements and representations to the American people. Now, I think that the American people largely are not buying it. This is the Republican Party that has taken something like 60+ votes to repeal the Affordable Care Act, including protections for those with pre-existing conditions. That's something that we're committed to fight for, and I think that American people understand that we are the party of affordable and accessible health care for the American people.
Is it so? When I see these ads and I hear that, I think about the people who were questioned by reporters, and they would say, "Do you like Obamacare?" And they'd say, "No." And they said, "Do you like the Affordable Care Act?" And they said, "Yes, absolutely." They're the same thing. Do you think people are savvy enough or up enough on the issues to realize what Republicans have done when it comes to the Affordable Care Act? Or do you think they'll just fall for ads?
Well, I think in this case, after about 2 years of active debate and discussion about it, the American people have a much clearer perspective on what the stakes are as it relates to Democratic control of the House of Representatives versus Republican control. Now, understand, the other side of the aisle are masters of misdirection, manipulation, and misappropriation of actual facts. Because for them, facts don't matter. Hypocrisy is not a constraint to behavior. That's why we're seeing them now have the nerve to run as if they are the guardians of pre-existing conditions. Nothing can be further from the truth. Because we've had such an active debate, because the American people have seen them attempt to take away health care from tens of millions of Americans and impose an age tax, I don't think that their trickery is going to work in the closing days of the election.
Congressman Jeffries, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Don.